This presentation of the feminist family theory is presented by Megan Foken and Jen Gibson. The history of feminism. Feminism's definition is the search for rights, opportunities, and identities women believe they deserve. In the 1920s, women fought for and eventually won the right to vote. The women that were most notably in this fight were Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony. They were fighting for their right to vote. They actually did not win that right until 1920. In the 1960s, there was the NOW Revolution, or the National Organization for Women. This movement was headed by Betty Friedan and Gloria Steinem. They were working to improve things such as equal pay for women with job training, reproductive choice, subsidized childcare, and the end of sexual discrimination. There are 4 different branches of feminism. There's liberal feminism, which spoke out against the subjugation of women. There's Marxist feminism that focused on the exploitation of women in regards to their reproductive roles and their household labor. Radical feminists emphasized male dominance as the problem with society. Socialist feminists focused on the liberation of women from the combined aspects of class oppression and patriarchy. And cultural feminism focused on bringing respect and value to those things that are considered essentially feminism rather than discriminating against those traits seen as masculine. Theorists of the family feminist theory. Structural functionalism proposed that roles in a family should be divided in a natural way, generally based on sex. Margaret Mead was revolutionary at her time. She was the most notable feminist writer of the 20th century. She studied and did research anthropologically, and it was revolutionary at the time. She suggested gender is socially constructed rather than biologically. Jessie Barnard wrote the book The Future of Marriage, in which she contradicted the perspective of marriage, in that there are 2 types of marriage, his marriage and her marriage, and his marriage tended to be a better option. Barnard and other feminist family theorists began to analyze how males dominate family power, whether it be intentionally or unintentionally. Carol Gilligan analyzed the psychological and internal development of women's sense of self-being, different from that of men, in her book In a Different Voice. She explored how women defined who they were and understood their reality through their relationships. Their experiences must be taken into account in the analysis of their development. She noted, particularly because they internalize their sense of self and their moral codes. Women, differing from men, often find nonviolence and caring for others dominates their values of justice and equality. In the 1990s, Kimberly Crenshaw suggested that Black feminists were left out of the feminist movement because at the time it was a predominantly white, middle-class bias, while simultaneously Black women were being left out of the anti-racist movement because of inherent focus on men. In this video clip taken from the movie Home Alone, the son has been left at home by mistake, and the mother wants to go out into New York City to search for him. Both the father and the hotel manager feel that she is too fragile of a person because she is female to do this, and the mother quickly sets them straight.
I'm going to go down to the police station and make sure that they're doing everything in their power to find Kevin. I want you to stay here with Frank, Leslie, and the kids.
No, I'm going out to look for him.
What?
With all due respect, madam, your son is lost in one of the biggest cities in the world.
Could you stay out of this, please?
As you wish.
Thank you. I don't think it's a good idea for you to start running around all over New York City all by yourself.
I think if our son can do it, I can do it. Kate, Peter, I'll be fine. The way I'm feeling right now, no mugger or murderer would dare mess with me.
Madam, there are hundreds of parasites out there, armed to the teeth. Do bundle up. It's awfully cold outside.
There are several primary terms and concepts related to this theory. The first being sex. Sex is one's biological assignment as genetically defined at birth, predominantly being that of male or female. The second is gender. Gender, as we discussed earlier, is the social meanings and behaviors ascribed to one sex. The next is categorization. Categorization is the process of applying labels to behaviors and roles according to your sex. Stratification. This refers to the application of value to different categories. In the fourth grade class, most elementary schools, it's probably better to be nice, and girls will be treated more positively by boys because they are nice. The next would be privilege. Privilege refers to the social status given to one with power and value within society. The next is social deconstruction. First step in the analysis of how views of reality are constructed by social interaction, particularly in the light of how gendered meanings are developed. This would be social deconstruction. Praxis. Praxis is the step after analysis in which beliefs and values are put into action. Praxis also includes advocacy for women. These would be the types of actions. Inclusiveness, reflecting on one's own behaviors to determine one's intentions. In looking at this chart, we can see the analysis of social interaction from a feminist perspective. Social deconstruction, looking at our values and reflecting on how they are, helps us to see where change needs to come. Discourse brings about the conversation and the beginning of change. And praxis will bring the change into being. There are 4 common areas of research and application in the feminist family theory. The initial being that of division of labor, where we look at the division of labor, work, and family balance within a home. The next would be the experience of family violence within a home. This would be a problem that we have attempted to maintain privacy in a family where we're failing these families that are seeing the injustices of violence within their homes. There are many kinds of intimate partner violence that go on within a home. The feminist researchers are more likely to obtain their samples from social services that are aimed at supporting women who are survivors. Often this does not give us the true number of violent offenders. The next topic would be Black feminism. During the many waves of feminist theory we've looked at, they focus more generally on lives and experiences of women. However, many scholars believe that it's important to recognize gender is only one of the variables that result in oppression. Black feminism is one example of research and practice that has emerged from this realization. Black feminism takes the more general concepts of feminist theory and adds the element of oppression of Blackness in our society. This is a study that was done by Brock in 2011. The term womanism came out of this movement. The last section of common areas would be that of other fields of study. Feminist lens has been used outside of the field of family science. In that, social work and counseling are 2 areas that are using feminist perspective. Feminist counseling relies on the historical aspect of uncovering inequities and injustices, focusing on marginalized groups such as women, and incorporates the recognition into counseling practices. There are a few specific critiques to this theory. The initial being that it is oppressive to men. That idea comes from the fact that this theory focuses on women and can be considered oppressive to men. The second would be that it takes an activist position. The idea of that is that it wants you to act on the oppression of women. The third is that it works against a traditional nuclear family. In reality, the traditional nuclear family is not the norm in most society. And the last being that it pays too much attention to the oppression of the group of women to the exclusion of other forms that have become oppressive, that of religion, that of economic standing, and things of that nature.